I never thought I'd witness two Karens go head-to-head in actual combat, but here we are. My name is Marcus Chun, and I'm a sports entertainment consultant who specializes in niche sporting events and unconventional competitions. Over the past 15 years, I've built a network of venues, promoters, and entertainment lawyers that would make most people's heads spin. I've organized everything from celebrity dodgeball tournaments to professional pillow fighting championships. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for the day two entitled women turned my community fundraiser into the most entertaining spectacle our town had ever seen. It started innocently enough. Our neighborhood was raising money for the local children's hospital, and I volunteered to organize a charity mud volleyball tournament at Riverside Park. The event had permits, insurance, proper safety equipment, and professional referees. Everything was above board and completely legitimate. I'd even hired a professional mud pit installation company that worked with obstacle course racing events nationwide. This was my specialty, turning unusual concepts into legal, insured, entertaining events that brought communities together. Before we go any further, if you're enjoying this story of entitled chaos, do me a favor and smash that like button. And if you want to hear more tales of Karens getting their comeuppance, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next in this absolute circus of entitlement. Enter Karen number 1, whose actual name was Sharon Whitmore. Sharon was the self-appointed guardian of our neighborhood's moral standards and the vice president of the Riverside Homeowners Association. She had perfectly highlighted blonde hair that she insisted on calling Champagne Sunset, wore exclusively athleisure wear from boutique brands nobody had heard of, and drove a white Range Rover with a custom license plate that read, "Blessed." Sharon had made it her personal mission to approve or deny every single community event based on her arbitrary standards of what was appropriate for our neighborhood's image. When Sharon first heard about the mud volleyball tournament, she showed up at my house unannounced on a Tuesday evening, already in full Karen mode. "Marcus, we need to talk about this mud situation," she said, not even waiting for me to invite her in. "I've been discussing it with the other HOA board members, and we have serious concerns about the optics." I invited her to sit down, offered her tea, and calmly explained that the event had all necessary permits, was on public park land outside HOA jurisdiction, and 100% of proceeds were going to the Children's Hospital. Every detail had been approved by the city's Parks and Recreation Department. Sharon wasn't having it. "But Marcus, mud wrestling? That's so lowbrow. It sends the wrong message about our community. What if potential homebuyers drive by and see people rolling around in the mud? Think about our property values." She clutched her designer purse like I'd just suggested we host a monster truck rally in her front yard. I explained again that it was mud volleyball, not wrestling, and that it was a common fundraising activity used by communities nationwide. The Mud Pit Company had done events for colleges, corporate team buildings, and charity organizations across the country. This was completely normal and, more importantly, completely legal. Sharon's face turned the color of her Champagne Sunset highlights. "Well, I'll be attending to supervise. And if I see anything inappropriate, I will be filing official complaints with everyone from the city council to the state health department. Mark my words, Marcus, I'll be watching." Enter Karen number 2, whose name was actually Karen. Karen Morrison. Karen Morrison was Sharon's nemesis in ways that would make a Greek tragedy look tame. Karen M. was the president of the competing Cedar Hills Homeowners Association, the neighborhood adjacent to ours. While Sharon wore designer athleisure, Karen M. wore designer business casual. While Sharon drove a white Range Rover, Karen M. drove a silver Mercedes G-Wagon. While Sharon's hair was Champagne Sunset, Karen M.'s was Vanilla Bean Amber. They were basically the same person, and they absolutely despised each other. The rivalry had started 3 years ago over a disputed property line between the two neighborhoods and had escalated into a full-scale Cold War. They competed over everything: whose neighborhood had better landscaping, whose community events were more successful, whose HOA had stricter rules. It was exhausting to watch, but occasionally entertaining in a reality TV sort of way. When Karen M. heard that Sharon was going to attend my mud volleyball tournament to supervise, she decided she needed to attend as well to ensure fair oversight. She called me to announce her intentions with the enthusiasm of someone declaring war. "Marcus, I understand Sharon Whitmore is planning to interfere with your charitable event," Karen M. said in a tone that suggested she'd been preparing this conversation. "As a concerned citizen and community leader, I feel it's my responsibility to attend and provide a balanced perspective. Sharon has a history of making mountains out of molehills, and I won't let her ruin a children's hospital fundraiser with her manufactured drama." I tried to explain that no supervision was necessary, and that professional referees would be handling everything, but Karen M. was already committed. "I'll be there to support you, Marcus. Someone needs to stand up to Sharon's tyranny." The day of the tournament arrived with perfect weather: sunny, 75 degrees, with a light breeze. The mud pit looked professional and inviting, the volleyball nets were properly installed, and teams from across the county had registered to participate. We had food trucks, a DJ, face painting for kids, and an auction of donated items from local businesses. It was shaping up to be exactly what I'd envisioned: a fun, family-friendly community event that would raise serious money for a worthy cause. Sharon arrived first, wearing white capri pants and a pastel pink blouse, which seemed like an interesting choice for a mud volleyball tournament. She brought a clipboard, a digital camera, and an expression that suggested she was documenting war crimes. She immediately began photographing everything with the intensity of a crime scene investigator. "Marcus, I need to see your permits again," she demanded, despite having already reviewed them 3 times during the planning process. "And I need to verify that your insurance coverage includes spectator liability. Also, is that mud pit exactly where it was marked on the site plan? Because it looks like it might be 3 feet further east than approved." I provided all the documentation again, while trying to greet arriving participants and volunteers. Sharon positioned herself at the edge of the mud pit area with her clipboard, scrutinizing every detail like she was judging an Olympic event. Karen M. arrived 20 minutes later, wearing nearly identical white capri pants and a pastel blue blouse. She brought her own clipboard, her own camera, and positioned herself directly opposite Sharon on the other side of the mud pit. The two women locked eyes across the expanse of mud like gunslingers in a Western showdown. The tournament began smoothly. Teams played enthusiastically, spectators cheered supportively, and mud splattered everywhere in exactly the fun, controlled chaos we'd planned for. Kids laughed, adults high-fived, and the donation buckets were filling up nicely. It was perfect, except for the two Karens slowly circling the mud pit, each trying to find something to criticize before the other one did. Sharon made her first complaint 30 minutes in. She marched up to me while I was helping coordinate the next match and declared, "That woman on the blue team just used a profanity. I heard it clearly. This is supposed to be a family event, Marcus. I'm shocked and appalled." Before I could respond, Karen M. appeared at my other elbow. "I've been listening carefully, and nobody has used any inappropriate language. Sharon is clearly making things up to sabotage this event. I think her real problem is that the Cedar Hills team is currently winning." Sharon whirled on Karen M. "Excuse me? I have perfect hearing, and I know what I heard. Unlike some people, I actually care about maintaining community standards." Karen M. stepped closer. "Community standards? That's rich coming from someone whose neighborhood still has that hideous mailbox situation on Elm Street. Talk about bringing down property values. I stepped between them before they could escalate further and suggested they both perhaps give me some space to actually run the event. They retreated to their respective sides of the mud pit, but continued glaring at each other with increasing intensity. The second complaint came from Karen M. an hour later. Marcus, I need to report a safety violation. That team just had 6 players in the mud pit at once. The rules clearly state 5 per side. Sharon probably didn't notice because she's too busy texting on her phone instead of properly supervising like she claimed she would. Sharon materialized instantly, apparently possessing some sort of Karen teleportation ability. I was documenting the event, not texting. And for your information, I counted the players too. There were only 5. You're seeing things, Karen, which doesn't surprise me given your documented issues with accurate perception. Remember the fence height dispute? That fence was definitely 7 feet. Karen M. snapped. We had it professionally surveyed. By your cousin's company, Sharon shot back. Hardly impartial. They continued bickering while I confirmed with the referees that all rules were being followed correctly. The professional refs just shook their heads in sympathy. They'd apparently dealt with difficult spectators before, but admitted these two were impressively committed to being upset. As the day wore on, Sharon and Karen M's rivalry intensified. They contradicted each other's observations, disputed each other's measurements, and challenged each other's interpretations of the rules. Every complaint from one was immediately countered by the other. It was like watching a tennis match where both players were simultaneously terrible and fascinating. The breaking point came during the final championship match. The score was tied, the energy was high, and the crowd was thoroughly invested in the competition. A spectacular play resulted in a player from each team diving for the ball simultaneously, colliding midair, and landing in the mud pit with a massive splash that sent mud flying in all directions. The splash zone was clearly marked. Signs were posted. Spectators in that area had been warned repeatedly. But both Sharon and Karen M had gradually moved closer to the pit throughout the day, each trying to out-supervise the other, until they were standing just inside the designated splash zone. The wave of mud hit them simultaneously. Sharon's pastel pink blouse became brown. Karen M's pastel blue blouse became brown. Their white capri pants became brown. Their faces, their hair, their clipboards, their cameras, everything became brown. They stood frozen, dripping with mud, looking like chocolate-covered Karen statues. The crowd went silent. Even the DJ stopped the music. Everyone held their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Sharon spoke first, her voice shaking with rage as she wiped mud from her eyes. This is unacceptable. This is assault. This is your fault. She pointed a mud-covered finger at Karen M. If you hadn't been crowding me and pushing forward to get a better view, I wouldn't have been standing in the splash zone. Karen M's jaw dropped, flinging small mud droplets. My fault. You were the one who kept stepping closer because you were paranoid I was going to find violations you missed. This is 100% your fault for being a controlling busybody who can't let people enjoy a simple charity event. I'm controlling? Sharon's voice reached frequencies only dogs should be able to hear. You're the one who showed up specifically to contradict everything I said. You're obsessed with me. Admit it. Obsessed with you? Karen M shrieked back. You wish. I came here to protect this event from your toxic interference. Everything you touch becomes about you. They advanced toward each other, both dripping mud, both shaking with fury. The crowd had gone from silent to thoroughly entertained. Phones were out. People were recording. This was better than the volleyball tournament. At least I have standards, Sharon yelled. At least I have friends, Karen M. countered. Take that back. Make me. And then, to everyone's shock and delight, Sharon pushed Karen M. Not hard, just a small shove on the shoulder. But Karen M. was standing at the edge of the mud pit. She windmilled her arms, trying to maintain balance, her eyes going wide with realization. She fell backward into the mud pit with a magnificent splash. The crowd gasped, then cheered, then started chanting. I'm not sure who started it, but suddenly dozens of voices were shouting, Karen fight! Karen fight! Karen fight! Sharon stood at the edge of the pit, looking shocked at what she'd done. Karen M. sat up in the mud, wiping her face, looking like a swamp creature emerging from a lagoon. For a moment, I thought Karen M. might just climb out and leave. Instead, she grabbed Sharon's ankle and pulled. Sharon went down face first into the mud, with a spectacular splat that would haunt her social media presence for years to come. When she came up sputtering, Karen M. was already standing, ready to fight. What happened next could only be described as the most entitled, most ridiculous, most entertaining mud wrestling match ever witnessed by suburban America. They grappled. They slipped. They shrieked. They accused each other of everything from property line violations to spreading rumors at book club. Mud flew everywhere as they rolled around, each trying to prove they were somehow superior to the other, while looking absolutely ridiculous in the process. You know what you did at the spring festival? Sharon screamed while trying to push Karen M.'s face into the mud. That prize was rightfully mine. Karen M. shot back, managing to flip Sharon over. Everyone knows your peonies were enhanced with illegal fertilizers. The crowd was losing its collective mind. The chanting had evolved into actual cheering. Someone started taking bets. The food truck vendors came out to watch. Even the referees had given up any pretense of professionalism and were openly laughing. I stood there with my professional event coordinator headset still on, watching two grown women essentially have a public meltdown in a children's hospital charity mud pit, and realized I was witnessing something special, something ridiculous, something I could absolutely use. Because here's what Sharon and Karen M. didn't know. I wasn't just a sports entertainment consultant. I was a sports entertainment consultant with contracts with 3 different streaming platforms and a proven track record of turning unconventional sporting events into viral content and legitimate entertainment properties. That professional pillow fighting championship I mentioned? It had gotten picked up for a full season. The celebrity dodgeball tournament? It raised over $2 million and spawned 3 international franchises. And I had been live streaming this entire event to the charity's social media page. The Mud Wrestling Karen match was currently being watched by 17,000 people in real time, and that number was climbing by the second. The comments were flooding in. People were tagging friends. Local news stations were already reaching out to my team asking for footage rights. I let them wrestle for another 5 minutes, partly because the crowd was so entertained, partly because the donations were pouring in online at unprecedented rates, and partly because I was already calculating exactly how to leverage this situation into something much bigger. Finally, I had the referees carefully separate them. Both Karens emerged from the mud pit looking like they'd been dipped in chocolate, breathing heavily, still glaring at each other with intense hatred. The crowd gave them a standing ovation. Ladies, I said calmly into my microphone so everyone could hear. That was quite a show. The good news is you've just helped raise an additional $47,000 for the Children's Hospital from online donations during your impromptu performance. The bad news is you both created a public disturbance at a permitted charity event, which I have documented extensively. Sharon tried to sputter a response, but I held up my hand. However, I'm willing to not press charges or file complaints about your behavior under one condition. You both agree to participate in an official, sanctioned, properly promoted mud wrestling match for charity 1 month from today. Professional ring, professional promotion, proper medical staff on site, the works. All proceeds go to the children's hospital. Both Karen stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Absolutely not, Sharon said immediately. I would never, Karen M. agreed. I shrugged and pulled out my phone. Okay, then I'll just contact the local news stations that have been emailing me for the footage and let them know you're both declining to help the children's hospital further. I'm sure the headlines will be very flattering. Local HOA presidents refuse charity event after viral brawl. That should do wonders for your neighborhood property values and your reputations. I watched the calculations happen behind their muddy faces. They were trapped and they knew it. Refuse, and they'd be forever known as the entitled Karens who fought in the mud and then refused to help sick kids. Agree, and they'd have to face each other again, officially, in front of even more people. Will it be properly organized? Sharon finally asked, her voice small. Completely professional, I assured her. Legitimate sporting event. Official rules. Professional referee. Medical staff. The whole thing. And the money really goes to the children's hospital? Karen M. added. Every single penny from tickets, streaming, and merchandise, I confirmed. They looked at each other across the mud pit, years of rivalry playing across their expressions. Then, simultaneously, they nodded. Fine, Sharon said. Agreed, Karen M. echoed. The crowd erupted in applause. Over the next month, I put together the most professionally organized mud wrestling event in history. We rented the local civic center's multipurpose arena. I brought in a professional wrestling ring construction company that specialized in unconventional materials and had them build a legitimate competition-grade mud wrestling pit with proper depth, safety features, and viewing angles. We had professional sports medicine staff on site. We hired a retired mixed martial arts referee who'd worked championship bouts. Everything was insured, permitted, and sanctioned by the state's athletic commission as an official amateur sporting event. The marketing practically did itself. The original video had gone viral, accumulating over 12 million views across various platforms. News outlets had picked up the story. Talk shows were discussing it. Memes were created. The Battle of the Karens became a cultural moment. I secured streaming rights with one of my platform partners for a 50-50 revenue split benefiting the hospital. We sold out the 2,000-seat arena in 48 hours. We had to add additional streaming packages to handle demand. Merchandise sales from t-shirts, mugs, and commemorative posters were exceeding projections. We'd already raised over $300,000 before the event even happened. Sharon and Karen M., to their credit, took it seriously. Sharon hired a personal trainer who specialized in functional fitness and apparently spent the month doing intensive conditioning. Karen M. joined a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym and learned basic grappling techniques. They both consulted with sports psychologists, nutritionists, and even brought in professional wrestlers to teach them how to perform safely. The transformation was remarkable. They went from entitled neighborhood busybodies to legitimate amateur athletes preparing for a sanctioned sporting event. They gave interviews to local media with surprising grace. They appeared together on a morning show and managed to be civil to each other while promoting the charity aspect. They were actually becoming less Karen-like. The night of the event arrived with massive anticipation. The arena was packed. The streaming numbers were already breaking records. We had legitimate sports commentary from professional announcers I'd brought in. The production value was absurdly high for what was essentially a grudge match between two suburban HOA presidents. The fight itself was everything anyone could have hoped for. 3 rounds, 5 minutes each, with legitimate scoring by the professional referee based on takedowns, control, and technique. Sharon used her superior conditioning to try to wear Karen M down. Karen M used her newly acquired grappling skills to try to control positions. They were evenly matched. The crowd was absolutely loving it. The commentary was treating it like a legitimate sporting event while acknowledging the absurd premise. The mud splashed dramatically. Both women were giving it their absolute all, fighting with the intensity of people who had years of pent-up rivalry to work through. In the end, Karen M won by a narrow decision. The referee raised her mud-covered arm in victory. The crowd gave both women a standing ovation. Sharon and Karen M, exhausted and covered head to toe in mud, actually hugged at the center of the pit. Real tears were mixed with the mud on their faces. We had raised $1.2 million for the Children's Hospital. But I wasn't done yet. During the post-event press conference, with both Karens still in their athletic gear but cleaned up somewhat, I made my final announcement. Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone streaming at home, I have one more surprise. Based on the incredible success of this event and the overwhelming public interest, I'm pleased to announce that we've been greenlit for a full season of Karen Combat Championship, a professional mud wrestling league featuring various grudge matches from communities across America. And Sharon and Karen M have been offered positions as the league's co-commissioners, overseeing event standards, safety protocols, and community outreach. Both women's jaws dropped simultaneously. The position comes with a salary, I continued, and requires extensive travel to oversee events in different cities. It's a real job with real responsibilities. Your expertise in, shall we say, maintaining standards and supervising community events makes you uniquely qualified. All league profits above operational costs continue supporting children's hospitals nationwide. The press ate it up. The streaming audience exploded with comments. And Sharon and Karen M sat there, realizing they'd just been offered the chance to turn their most annoying qualities into an actual career helping children. You planned this from the beginning, Sharon said slowly, looking at me with new understanding. Not the beginning, I admitted, but definitely from the moment you both fell into that mud pit at my charity tournament. I saw two women who desperately needed a better outlet for their competitive energy and control issues. I saw an entertainment opportunity. And I saw a way to help a lot of sick kids. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all, it's redirection. Before we go, I've got one more favor to ask. If this story of entitled chaos turning into charitable triumph made you smile, give this video a big thumbs up. And definitely subscribe to Karen E World for more tales of entitlement meeting its match in the most unexpected ways. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story. Trust me, the Karens of the world never stop providing material. Karen M started laughing first, then Sharon joined in. They looked at each other, then back at me, and I could see the moment they both realized they'd been completely and thoroughly outmaneuvered. I hadn't destroyed them or humiliated them. I'd transformed them. I'd taken their worst qualities and turned them into something constructive, profitable, and charitable. And the best part? They couldn't even be mad about it, because opposing the league would mean opposing a charity that helped children. I'd used their own need for control and reputation management against them, trapping them in a situation where the only way forward was to become better people who happened to oversee competitive mud wrestling events for worthy causes. Sharon looked at Karen M. Karen M looked at Sharon. Then, they both looked at me with expressions of shock, respect, and the dawning realization that they'd just been out-Karened by someone who'd never raised his voice once.